we're going to start with our Super Bowl champions for this episode, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles. Brought in Azeez Ojulari from their divisional rivals Giants, Josh Uche as well, Adoree Jackson, AJ Dillon, Avery Williams, Harrison Bryant. Did lose a few guys in their defense, though. Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, Darius Slay, notably. Isaiah Rodgers, Avonte Maddox. He also lost Kenneth Gainwell, Darius Slay. And we've been incredibly active in the offseason in terms of trades. They traded Kenny Pickett to the Browns and received Dorian Thompson-Robinson back as well as picks. They traded CJ Gardner-Johnson to the Texans for Kenyon Green and picks as well. Made numerous draft picks, as Harry Roseman does. He's become incredibly famous for trading within the draft and prior to the draft and a post-draft as well, where they traded Bryce Huff to the 49ers, traded Thomas Booker to the Raiders for Jacorian Bennett. They also recently traded for Harrison Bryant. They traded Harrison Bryant away after getting him in to the Texans for John Mechie, and there was picks involved in that as well. Obviously, being the Super Bowl champions, they had a very low pick within the first round, the 31st pick. Jihad Campbell from Alabama they took there. They took Andrew Makuba in the second round, the safety out of Texas. Took Carl McCord, quarterback out of Syracuse as well as a lot of other picks within the whole of the draft. Didn't have a third round pick, but a lot of sixth round picks and no seventh. Andrew, I'm going to start with you, obviously, because you're going to really enjoy talking about this subject. The Eagles now, massive target on their back, Super Bowl champions, won it in incredible fashion in New Orleans. Obviously, myself, Sky, Gareth were there to watch that happen. Can they do it again? Is this team going to be just as dominant again as they were in last season?
Well, not a lot's really changed on their team, really. I know they've lost a few defensive players that have merit that helped them down that stretch, but they've kept the core. Their rookies and youngsters are only just getting, into their prime now. So, they're all firing on all cylinders. So there's not a lot really to say. They can't do it again. The only thing I will say that might stop them doing it again is their schedule is a lot harder than last year. So I don't think they will be able to rely massively on just the run game alone. I think their schedule was so easy last year that they could just run the ball, defense play well, and not really have to throw the ball that much. I think this year they might have to throw a bit more. They're going to be in a few tighter games. And obviously they've got a new offensive coordinator as well, which is something that's different in their team. So I think they've got the team to be able to go and do it again. But I don't think it's going to be as easy a route to the final as what it was.
How impressed, Adam, have you been with the fact that they have just been able to reinforce and the extended period of time that they've been able to do this? They've been very, very astute with their drafting. They've been very astute with the guys that they've brought in. They've done trades. They've not been afraid. They've been fearless in that. And we know Harry Roseman's really... he's the guy for moving around and usually it seems like coming out on the winning side of these trades. But I'm impressed even with the team that they've just been constantly been able to reinforce for a long time.
Yeah, it is impressive how they've managed to do it. It is about constantly trading. It is also about the people that you do sign up. You put on a load of void years on the back of their contract, which then means you can push the money across. And I think the reason that the Eagles have done it so successfully is that they're probably the first team to really embrace that and really go compared to other teams. There's still a lot of teams out there that don't do it as much, whereas for the Eagles have really gone and done it, really pushed out loads of void years, spread the money across. At some point, in theory, you're going to have to pay up. But if the TV money keeps going up, then you won't. And that is how they're kind of getting around it. And it's almost like they're expecting the cap to keep going up and up and up. And so it will work. So these guys that they've invested in, as long as they don't fall off a cliff, then they've got themselves a really good squad here. And that's kind of, they've won through accountancy to a certain extent. That's what they've done. It's like they've done that. And you need to be able to have an owner that has plenty of readily available cash to be able to do that as well. And they've got that with Jeffrey Laurie. So it kind of all works as a combination. But it's impressive because they're basically the first ones to really properly embrace it and go for it completely. Whereas for other teams have kind of dipped their toe in a bit and sort of done it a little bit. This team has properly done it. So that's why it's impressive. I kind of agree with Andrew when it comes to the team. I don't think much has changed really here. They have lost some important players on the defense, and I do think Mekhi Becton was decent for them on the O-line as well. So losing him, I think, could be a loss. I don't really feel like they have brought players in that are of the same level as what they've lost. So I do think there is a little bit of a drop there. And obviously the schedule is harder. Having said all that, I just think their system is very, very good, and that they've got these core players that are very, very talented on the offense. They've got the same again on the defense, arguably better on the defense than the offense. And I think it's just going to be very, very difficult to stop them. That doesn't mean that they're going to win the Super Bowl, because obviously, as we know, once you get to the playoffs, anything can happen. But I think it does mean that they've done everything they can to put themselves in the position to win the Super Bowl again. And they have to look at it as a form of they're trying to become a dynasty now. That's what they're looking at trying to become. And they're trying to win it by taking it away from the team that we consider the dynasty of now, sort of thing, in the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think that's kind of where they're at, and it's very, very difficult to go back to back, but they've got a very good chance of doing it.
I think if there's one team where you've just lost two high-end players in terms of Milton Williams and Josh Sweat, who, let's really be frank about this, were only suddenly seen as big names because they had a sublime Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We weren't talking about Milton Williams and Josh Sweat in the season. No one was going.
I think we were talking about Josh Sweat, weren't we? He was big all year.
He was doing well, but I don't think we were going like Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Jared Verse.
No, it was Zach Bourne, wasn't it? It was the big news, wasn't it, for them? And they kept all of it.
They're good, and obviously they really balled out in the Super Bowl, but a lot of players did really well in the Super Bowl. So if there was one team that was to lose important players, starters, I think it is this team. And you said it's interesting about that they've really embraced the style of how they run their organization. The only one you could sort of compare it to, with terms of making splashy moves or going against the grain of what the league is doing, was the Rams. And it actually didn't. It worked out for a Super Bowl, and suddenly it didn't. They were giving away loads of picks to get stars in, whereas this team doesn't give away picks to bring stars in. It gives away picks to just reinforce it, to get more draft picks, to move it on, to be able to make that movement in the draft. I think that's what's really key to their organization, is they get the picks to then be able to move around the board in any way they see fit, whether that go up or down. And it just then allows you the leverage to go and get the guys that you truly, really, really want, doesn't it? Like, I don't know why teams don't do that as much, I suppose. Maybe because if everyone did it, then it would be completely pointless, wouldn't it, really?
I think it's quite complicated to do that. And I think you have to kind of look at it in a different way to what normal NFL football has been for many years. Like I say, it's not about the obvious things. It is about accountancy. It's about having void years. It's about doing sort of the more statistical approach of things, I suppose. And I think that although analytics is something that a lot of NFL teams obviously use when it comes to the game, I don't know how much they use that when it comes to, the front office and doing that sort of thing. So I do feel like that they do sort of like look at it from a different point of view. As I said, I think you need to have a cash-rich owner in order to be able to do it, and that does take out a fair few teams, because there's a lot of them that don't have that, just the ability to be able to pay someone and guarantee them like 100 million and have that cash to go, yeah, there you go. You know, I mean, didn't Jeffrey Laurie sell like 8% of the Eagles for like an insane amount of money? And then obviously that money is now being used by him to do these, to be able to just literally throw cash at these guys. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with what he's doing, but it's not something that everyone can do. I mean, the Bengals get a lot of criticism, don't they, for not signing their players. But the fact is like, yes, the owner is wealthy, but he doesn't have loads of cash that he's got readily available to be able to do that sort of thing. So I think there is a bit of that in it. And that's where they are just sort of like the front office compared to other front offices are playing at a different level compared to some of the others. And I think it makes a big difference.
I think they've got a really good locker room as well. Now, Adam says like, you know, accountancy and, you know, things like that. But when you look at free agents that they bring in as well, they're usually quite big names, and they usually go there. And then once they're there for a little time, if it's a year or so or whatever, once they leave, you see people coming in from the same team to go there. So I think they must have a really good locker room and an atmosphere, and they've got their personnel right as well, because it feels like people want to go there. Now, I know obviously if you go there, you're in with a chance of a Super Bowl, but it just strikes me, you know, they've picked up Azeez Ojulari and Saquon and people that from the Giants were rivals, and they've gone, come over, lads. It's good here. Like, you know, the team is good. It's nice. The atmosphere is good. So I think there's an air of that they've got right as well, because there is organizations where you've got players go in, you know, we'll talk about a team later on in this, I'm sure, where players are going, I don't want to be here. Like, it's not great. Like, I'm not treated well. Like, I want to go somewhere else. And there's some good teams that do lose players because of that, and they don't. So there's more than just accountancy with them for me.
Yeah, they also don't worry about if players have got problems. When you think about Jalen Carter and everything during that draft, it doesn't bother them. They know they've got the veterans in there, and they had Fletcher Cox there, didn't they, at the time, to sort them out and not have a problem with that. And now you don't hear any problems from Jalen Carter. But there were teams that were put off.
To build on that, I think what I never hear, this has sort of struck me with lightning out of nowhere, and I don't think you ever hear this in the media. It was your point of saying they're defeating the dynasty. The dynasty is seen as the Chiefs. However, the Eagles have been putting up a pretty good dynasty of their own. They have been really competitive now for the last few years. And we've almost got the Eagles have become this counterculture dynasty. And it's like you've got the Chiefs, you know, the red, the bright red, the loud fans, the Taylor Swift, the Travis Kelce, the Pat Mahomes, the relaxed, the flashy, the crazy movement that Mahomes can do with his arm with the ball, and it's all very digestible, isn't it? But then you have the counterculture Eagles, the no one likes us, we're a gritty city. We'll beat you in the mud. We'll spit on your face and kick you down when you're down. Sort of like, you know, they've got the angry coach, the arguments on the sideline. It's like the two of the greatest going against each other, and one of them is the one that is on the front of the newspaper saying how amazing he is, and the one that's in the back pages talking about, yeah, they're really good, but we don't want to put them on the front page of the news. You know, they're very counterculture, and they're very angry, and they're very in your face. And actually, it's complete pleasure to have that sort of butting of two very different philosophies very consistently year after year. And I think that's what makes NFL really, really fun. And I think that's why people like the Eagles a lot and want them to do well for a long time, because they are sort of they're the Shrek to Prince Charming in a way, aren't they? You know what I mean? They're the people they're the team that people want to root for.